Hello everybody, welcome to the Empressive channel. Gabrielle Union recently did an interview on the Ideal Generation and it went viral because she actually admitted that she splits her household expenses 50-50 with her husband Dwayne Wade, and she still feels the pressure to work even though she and Dwayne are supposed to have a lot of money.
I'm curious, at what point did you develop that first sense of security?
I struggle with that still, just because I think I just have more responsibilities, for my money. It's weird to say I'm head of household because in this household, we split everything 50-50. But in the other households that each of us have to support, it puts there's always this like gorilla on your back that it is like, you better work, you better work. You gonna sleep in? Somebody might not eat. Come on, you gotta work. And it's hard. It's hard to let that go. So I'm working on that.
Now, when this part of the interview went viral, it actually created a lot of discourse online. And I will say I was a little surprised that Gabrielle still feels the pressure to financially provide for her family, even though her husband, Dwayne Wade, is supposed to be worth close to $200 million. It's kind of surprising. But then again, I thought to myself, well, just because we think celebrities have money doesn't automatically mean that they have it. Sometimes they might not have liquid cash. Sometimes their money is invested in other places. Sometimes they may go through seasons where money is not coming in the same way it used to. Also, some of them blow through money just to keep up appearances and keep up with what everybody else is doing. And Gabrielle and Dwayne do have a Hollywood lifestyle. They have expenses and they have staff that they have to pay. So they could easily run through money if they're not good with it. But then another part of me is thinking, well, $200 million is a lot of money to blow through. And I don't think they're just out here draining their money like that. But then again, I don't know their financial situation. Either way, it came as a surprise, especially to a lot of women, because we couldn't understand why Gabrielle was splitting her expenses 50-50 with somebody who makes way more money than her. And a lot of people couldn't wait to bring up the fact that Gabrielle dealt with a lot in the relationship. I mean, Dwayne Wade had a break baby on her, and also she admitted to eating his groceries. So she's doing all of that just to pay half of the bills, and on top of that, worry and stress about providing for her other family. I mean, that's crazy. And a lot of people were going in on Dwayne Wade as well, and they basically said that he ain't really the husband in the relationship. Gabrielle is. But I found Gabrielle's response to be very interesting. After she got a lot of backlash on social media, she uploaded this video on Instagram and said, "I love when he matches my energy 50-50 over here." Now, this could be a way of her defending her relationship, but it sounds to me like she's actually proud to split the bills 50-50. Whereas some women would be completely fine with their rich husband taking care of them, Gabrielle is not one of those women. She's one of those women who wants to have an equal contribution. She wants to be equal to her husband, which nothing is wrong with that, but it wouldn't be a bad idea for her to at least take some of the burden off of herself and allow her husband to handle most of the household expenses. Because clearly she's stressing out over taking care of her other family. So I wonder why she would want to add more to her plate by splitting the bills with her husband. But based off of her response, it seems like she's okay with it, and she probably sees it as a flex. I do think Gabrielle does enjoy having some type of financial control, and she wants to be on her husband's level. And that could be due to her dominant personality. I think she has a more go-getter, take charge energy. She's very alpha, whereas Dwayne is more beta and he's more passive in the relationship. And it seems like he's okay with his woman kind of taking the reins a little bit. And some people see it as a problem because Dwayne has accumulated more money than Gabrielle has, and they feel like he should be helping her. She shouldn't be stressing out about working and finding her next check. I mean, that sounds crazy, right? Once again, we don't know their financial situation, but if we're gonna assume that they have money, it would make sense for Dwayne to take on some of that financial burden. And I think most alpha men would actually rise to the occasion and do that. But like I said, Dwayne comes across as a little more beta. He's a little bit more passive. And I think that might be due to his own upbringing. Growing up, his parents weren't really reliable. His father wasn't there. His mother was on drugs. And he was actually being taken care of by his first wife's family. And this was before he made it to the NBA. He relied on his first wife and her family to take care of him because he was looking for that financial and maternal security. And now that he's married to Gabrielle, he's still not really 100% taking care of the finances, even though he's capable of doing so. But I don't think he's the type to really have an urge to step up. I think he's okay with their arrangement, and I think Gabrielle is okay with it too. So even though some people are outraged about this, believe it or not, I think Gabrielle chooses to go 50-50 with Dwayne. She's used to being the breadwinner. She's used to having some financial control. In fact, in her previous marriage, she did pay all of the bills. She admitted that she paid all of the bills, and her first marriage was kind of a mess. I mean, she was married to a former NFL player named Chris Howard, and he cheated on her. She cheated on him, and she felt okay with cheating because she was the breadwinner.
I don't know.
Well, in our first marriage, neither one of us felt like the marriage should get in the way of our dating. And so
Oh my God. That's
part of it
you
was
and I
like
are identical. I was
keeping up with his activities. And I was like, oh, that's what you're doing? Oh, you're going to feel this one. And
Okay.
I just felt entitled to it as well. I was paying all the bills. I was working my ass off. And I felt like that's what comes, the spoils of riches.
Yeah.
And like my dad before me, whoever has the most gets to do whatever the hell they want, is what I thought.
Yes.
And it was just dysfunctional from day one.
Yeah.
The honeymoon period of my divorce from Chris was short-lived, and I did the laundry list of dumb things you do when you want your ex to like you. I invested in a company he started with one of my friends. I paid rent for 6 months on a new home for him and co-signed for a Porsche. Then he abandoned the Porsche at the Burbank airport, and I inherited a bunch of bills and parking tickets. The business failed, so there went that money too. And like my money, I have never seen him again.
Yeah, I didn't let the marital vows get in the way of my outside dating. A lot of people stop there, and I just, I couldn't. Once I realized how prolific his cheating was, I was like, and now I'm competitive.
Yeah.
It was like,
So you're like, I'm going for
okay,
mine.
you're going for the whoever's closest to the door at 2 a.m.
But
I'm
I
gonna
love that
go
you
for
take
some,
your own accountability.
No,
for that,
I was so grimy. I had a problem, but it all comes from self-esteem. And also this idea that a lot of couples have that whoever brings home the most money is entitled to do whatever the hell they want. Entitled to be disrespectful, entitled to not be loyal, entitled to
lies.
lie.
Yeah.
Because you have the most money.
Which it turned out that you were the breadwinner towards the end of that marriage, weren't
Yeah,
you?
well, actually from the beginning. Yeah, from the
He
very
probably
beginning.
loves that you talk about this in the book.
Or not. Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
So Gabrielle admitted on several different occasions that she was the breadwinner in her first marriage, and she felt entitled to do what she did because, for one, she was retaliating against her ex, but also she saw how her father treated her mother, and she saw the type of control that a person had when they were the breadwinner. And I don't think Gabrielle was willing to let that go. At least not completely, which is probably why she goes 50-50 with her husband Dwayne now. And also I think she low-key likes the competition. I mean, she did a whole Gatorade commercial where she was competing with Dwayne. And it was so ridiculous because Dwayne was one of the top athletes in the NBA. So there's no way she could compete with him on any level, at least not physically, but she still likes the idea of it.
Who would you like to trade places with if you could?
My husband.
Really?
So I think a big part of the whole 50-50 conversation is not so much about finances. It's not so much about switch gender roles, but I think it's more about having financial control. And also, I think it's kind of low-key about competitiveness. I think there's an undertone of competitiveness between Gabrielle and her spouse. If they are financially comfortable, she doesn't have to split half of the bills, but she wants to. And that kind of leads me to another conversation about Gabrielle's competitiveness, because I want to delve a little deeper in that. A lot of Gabrielle's competitiveness is rooted in her own insecurity. And she did talk about this in her book, We're Going to Need More Wine. She talked about where her insecurities came from. She talked about how she was sometimes treated differently from her siblings. She talked about colorism. She talked about racism. She talked about the struggle of being the only Black girl in her environment and how she had to constantly prove herself. She had to prove her worth, and she was constantly looking for validation and acceptance. And also, she went through a very horrific experience where she was assaulted while working. So even that negatively affected the way that she viewed herself. And even in Hollywood, it was a struggle because Hollywood is highly competitive, especially for Black actors. So she was competing a lot with her other counterparts. And a lot of times she would get passed up on roles because they were either better or they had a more acceptable look.
But were there other people that you would always audition against?
Yeah, it was always, in the very beginning, it was Melinda Williams. It was Melinda Williams, Bianca Lawson, Taraji. And then it shifted after a certain point, and then it was Kerry and Zoe and Tamala Jones. Tamala used to walk, her and Melinda Williams and Bianca. And it had come down to me and Bianca, right? And she was just booking everything. It was like one of those people that you see walking in the audition and you're like, why did I sit on the 405 for this? She's getting it. And I remember I was auditioning and I was testing for a pilot on UPN. Google the network; it no longer exists. But it was between me and another girl. Well, she's known, Bianca Lawson. She ended up getting the job, and my manager was like, why? Is there anything that we can give her to work on for for the next gig? And they were like, no, Bianca's just prettier. Okay.
So Gabrielle dealt with some really harsh rejection in her career, and as she got older, she still had to compete. She had to compete to be number one. And there was a point where she was even competing with Kerry Washington. Now, Kerry Washington was acting and putting in the work for a long time before she snagged the role of Olivia Pope in the hit TV show Scandal. Now, this was actually a role that Gabrielle herself really wanted. And there were other actresses like Taraji P. Henson who wanted the role as well, because it was the first time a Black actress was starring in a major primetime show. And it was a big, big deal because there weren't a lot of opportunities like that for actresses back then. It was a highly coveted role and Gabrielle wanted it, but she didn't get it. And she also lost her Neutrogena deal to Kerry Washington.
I think my first big endorsement opportunity was Neutrogena. Every year they kept renewing my contract and I just started taking it for granted. Like, I am this. And then they were like, and that's enough for you. Meet Kerry Washington. And I was like, oh, whoa. And by then it was like, the talk was brands, brands, brands. So what does that mean if I've lost my brand? What happens now when you've been replaced? Do you have a brand? Am I worthless?
Even though Gabrielle had her share of losses, she also had her wins as well, and she was able to be a part of movies like Bring It On, Bad Boys 2, Think Like a Man, Deliver Us from Eva, and she even starred in her own TV show, Being Mary Jane. But even with her wins, she still dealt with some insecurities. She still had to struggle to compete for some roles, and it manifested itself into some ugly ways. In fact, Gabrielle became a mean girl. So she would have her feuds and rifts with different people in Hollywood. For example, Jada Pinkett Smith. For a long time, there was a silent beef between her and Jada. And there were some people who speculated that the beef was because Gabrielle was messing with Jada's husband, Will Smith, possibly while they were filming Bad Boys 2. However, the real reason was they were in silent competition with each other. And when they heard one person didn't like them, they were like, well, girl, I don't like you either.
Neither one of us actually knows what originally took place back then, but the people that we had around us were like, well, you know how she feels about you.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, you know how she feels about you. And then it was like, okay, girl, bye.
At some point in time, like neither of us remembers, we created a slight. Either I slighted her or she slighted me, or it was real or imagined. You know, this is what she, Jada don't really mess with you like that. And then you're like, really? What? I missed that.
And then you're like, well, I don't
I don't mess with her either.
Right.
And then 17 years go by.
What was y'all issue?
We don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, just some young girl crap. Real talk. Just young girl, so me just wanting to be the flyest in the room.
Okay.
Gab wanting to be the flyest in the room.
Okay.
And no, I'm not sharing cute.
You're not sharing
and that's just as simple and as basic as that. And then you allow other people to get in your ear about petty crap. And then it just got into a whole place where it was just like, all right, well, I'm not dealing with her. And she was like, I'm not dealing with her.
Gabrielle also had a riff with LL Cool J and even Sanaa Lathan. And her riff with Sanaa wasn't her fault, by the way, but the situation she had going on with LL was kind of her fault because, once again, that competitive energy rose up, her ego rose up, and it created some tension.
Well, I felt like I needed a do-over from Love and Basketball.
Yeah.
Me and Boris were like newcomers, and we were like, nobody talked to us.
Wow.
Yeah. Me and Sanaa, we became friends. I was doing Bad Boys 2 in Miami, and she was shooting at a time, and we were staying at the same hotel. But after Love and Basketball, I'm like, I don't mess with you. Like I'm like, I needed to see all I needed to see.
Oh wow.
And so she was like, no.
We're friends now.
Yeah. So after a couple cocktails at the Delano, we've been BFFs ever since.
That's gangster though.
I was feeling myself, right? We all were kind of testing the waters of our ego and our pride, and this is, LL hadn't done a ton, so he's still a little, insecure about acting, transitioning from music, and we got into an argument about something, like just a debate, back and forth in the trailer. I wouldn't let it go. Neither would he. I'm not even thinking about time. I need to be right in this moment. And we carry on, I don't know, maybe 30, 45 minutes, right? But like at that moment, I needed him to concede and me to be right and to own my rightful place as number one on the call sheet, right about everything. And then the end of the day comes and I overhear this crew member say, no, I'm not gonna make my daughter's game. Oh. And I was like, and it all hit me. We're all connected. Yep. And I never wanna be the reason somebody doesn't get home to their family.
So these were just a few examples of some of Gabrielle's riffs. And over the years, she had to learn some hard lessons and she had to evolve and grow from certain things. And I do believe Gabrielle has made a lot of strides to grow. And she's had a lot of people really help her along the way. But that competitiveness that she has still kind of lingers on. And I know I kind of went off topic going from talking about her doing 50-50 with her husband to her experiences in Hollywood, but I just wanted to give some examples and just a broader backstory to kind of support my initial point about her competitiveness and where it comes from. But yeah, it's a little all over the place. But anyway, tell what you all think about this video down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you care. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.